Welcome to Football Today, team profiles and projections. And today we are looking at the Detroit Lions, who come in fourth in our power rankings after a 12-5 season in which they visited the NFC Championship game. Just in last year, they were fifth in scoring on offense, 23rd in scoring on defense. We're going to talk about it all. This is Dan Campbell's fourth season coming off of that playoff win as their head coach. Ben Johnson's third season, and you forget that he predated Campbell in Detroit, although he did work with him in Miami a little bit. And then Aaron Glenn, his fourth season after being the Saints DB coach. Justin, the Lions won the North for the first time since 1993, and their first playoff win since 1991. Justin, the reason I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl first. The reason I'm most excited about this team is that there are four units outside of special teams on a football team. Passing offense, rushing offense, run defense, pass defense. They were top five in three of those four categories, and the one that was bottom five, and they went all in to try and fix that bottom five unit with their top two draft picks and $20 million per year on two more players and Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson. So they attacked their weaknesses. I think they made their strength a little stronger, Justin, and they're ready to go. It's time for a Super Bowl in Motown.
I have them going to the Super Bowl. I have them going, but Bobby, I do think this is a pretty talented roster, and I think it starts up front with them. It starts with that offensive line, and this is one of the favorite offenses to watch in the National Football League, right? The defense has some questions, and we're going to talk about it, and maybe I have some ideas, actually schematically. Whoa, Justin Penik talking schematics. I have some ideas schematically on how they should attack this year. But offensively, man, a lot of fun to watch. You want to talk about team that can run the ball at will and a team that can run the ball whenever they want. And this is also an offense that could just do kind of whatever they want at any given time, because I really do think it starts up front with that offensive line. And now that the Eagles' offensive line has kind of looked a little different, the Ravens' offensive line lost three starters. I think by far and away, the Detroit Lions have the best offensive line in football. And Bobby, I don't even think it's close, man. They're so good, and everything starts there.
You're literally stealing my words, where I'm like, I don't think it's even close. And one of my first note on their offense is their O-line allows them to do whatever they want offensively, and it just got stronger by replacing Jonah Jackson with Kevin Zeitler. Right? So I talked about they attacked their weaknesses and they made their strength even stronger, and adding Kevin Zeitler to that offensive that offensive line. Justin, in the passing game, Goff was second in passing yards last year. He was fourth in passing touchdowns with 30. He had the third best sack rate after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Again, and here's a take, right? Ben Johnson is known as this guru and stuff, and he very well may be. There's some things I really like that he does on offense. If my team hired him, I'd be a little worried. I'm like, all right, what are you going to draw up when you don't have this offensive line in front of you? Because it allows you to do so many things that other teams are kind of working around. So that's not meant to say a shot at Ben Johnson, just to say that this offensive line allows you to do so many things that other teams aren't afforded to do.
Right, and having Amon-Ra St. Brown too. One of the things that I love about the Detroit Lions, let's forget about Amon-Ra St. Brown catching the ball for a second. I love the usage of condensed formations that the Lions do, where they're able to bring in Amon-Ra St. Brown and line him up like he's about to go out and run a route, but you're very close to the tight end, you're right by the tackle. And I think the Lions were top three in single back usage, lining up in single back on first down, on early downs. And part of the reason why you could do that so much with the Lions, and you could still run out of 11 personnel, a good amount, even though they do diversify some 12 personnel looks in there too, it's because you can put Amon-Ra St. Brown close to the front five, and he can block. He's an awesome blocker. One of the best blocking receivers in the National Football League. Oh, and then also he's one of the best receivers in the National Football League, too. Going out of the slot, he could do anything. He's strong, one of the best route runners, fast, and does everything really well. So again, an offense that could just accomplish anything that they want at any time.
Well, yeah, and even with, we could talk about Amon-Ra, specifically, last year had 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns. A 72% or better catch rate every year, while putting up those type of numbers on 120 catches. Justin, the Lions are the only team where I'm like, hey, it's 3rd and 13. I know who they're throwing to, and I have confidence that they're going to do it. Right? It happened. It happened all throughout the playoffs. Happens obviously in the regular season as well, where it's like third down. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Goff are going to be on the same page. The offensive line is going to give them time to find the holes in whatever parts of the defense there are. If it's man coverage, they know where they're going. Amon-Ra just wins. Like it's a special like thing to have that type of offensive line in front of you. And then you get Amon-Ra, a guy like that, and it allows you to do a lot. And it asks a lot of their players, but their players do perform. With the team, and again, skill position wise, they're not like, I won't even say that because they got a great running back duo. Laporta's sick. They're doing this without really an outside wide receiver threat.
Right. They want Jameson Williams is a very complicated story.
Every year it's like, well, not every year. It's only his third year, but I mean, I'm not a Jameson Williams fan. Right, and I wasn't a fan of his coming out of the draft, so that obviously clouds things a little bit for people. But he just hasn't done. I mean, he averaged 29 yards per game. Yeah. Right. And here's the thing, though, because he had those 2 touchdowns in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, finished the season strong.
So it's like this, like, okay, here we go. If you
it's the Gabe Davis impact.
Yeah. So I don't believe in Jameson Williams, but I do think he could be more impactful than what he's been.
Because
He's been a zero in all reality.
Because the talent's there. The athletic talent is there.
Yeah, like, again, I wasn't the biggest fan of Jameson Williams coming out of the draft, but I also, with this unit, he should be doing more than what he's doing, right? Yeah. So, even a little more, effect out there. And then, but in reality, it's like, okay, Amon-Ra's your number 1 option in the receiving game. Laporta's just the number 2, right? I mean, and he had 86 catches, 900 yards as a rookie tight end, a position that sometimes guys take a little longer to come along at. Like, that's, hey, is that everyone's favorite 1-2 receiving threat in the NFL? No, but I think it's solid, especially when you talk about the run game that they have.
Don't sleep on Khalif Raymond getting open. He does get open.
Raymond is solid too. Let's talk about Jared Goff specifically.
Sure.
Obviously, got the big contract. Where are you at with Jared Goff? Because I don't think people should put him above what he is because of the raw numbers and the success of the team, but he has grown from the time with his time with the Rams. But there is still some question marks when you compare him against the best, right? Like, my biggest thing is when he's under pressure. He has the lowest average. He has a low average depth of target, but the second most interceptions while under pressure.
And
right?
a very quick time to throw on early downs as well. Which I think credit to Johnson. I think they did that very intentionally to make the offense efficient. Low average depth of target, get the ball out of your hands, all to bypass the weaknesses. Yes.
They also they're gonna have a low average depth of target. Their number 1 and number 2 threats are a tight end, or a slot wide receiver and a tight end, right? So it's part of the offense. But I think Goff has done really well for them, and I didn't even blink at that contract that they gave him, even though it is a ton of money. Like, I think he's in that tier of quarterback that should get that contract, and especially, obviously, he should now just because they're in such win now mode. But even if they went 10-7 last year because the defense gave up some more games and they lost in the wild card, like say the Rams game just flip flops, like I still think he's worthy of that.
All right, you asked me what do I think of Jared Goff, and ironically enough, I went on Wake and Jake the other day, and we did a QB tier list. Now, we did a QB tier list of our own.
From the Dan Patrick Show?
From the Dan Patrick Show, yes. We did a QB tier list of our own on this channel a couple months ago for Football Today, but our categories were more boring, where these categories was, does anyone deserve to be with Pat? Mahomes. There was a couple quarterbacks and could be with Pat. Then the next category was can win MVP. And then the next category was Joe Flacco. And why he named it Joe Flacco. This is his brain, by the way, not mine, Jake's brain. And why he named it Joe Flacco is basically quarterbacks that could go on a run. Quarterbacks that necessarily can't win MVP, which I would say that I'm not, if I'm a betting man, I'm not betting on Jared Goff winning an MVP, right?
No.
Quickly.
No, but he could, but it'd be debated on how much.
It'd be very debated. But you very clearly can see Jared Goff, even though it's not an MVP winning quarterback, can very much see him going on a Joe Flacco type of postseason run where his team inevitably winds up holding up a Lombardi trophy, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Josh Reynolds doesn't drop a pass last year, that very well may happen.
Yeah.
I hate to do QB rankings on the fucking Lions episode because I hate it.
We'll be quick on it.
I have Goff at 12.
I would have to pull up my exact ones, but I have him around a similar ranking too, man. But the questions that I have is in such a QB driven sport like the NFL. I do have questions on if Jared Goff can lead his team to a Super Bowl victory. That's why I have a guy like, hey, I have the Bengals winning the Super Bowl. I think Joe Burrow is a superior quarterback.
I do think there's obviously a group of superior quarterbacks, but I have no doubts that Goff can lead a team to a Super Bowl championship.
Which is fair, and I will own being wrong on that. Like I will own it for sure.
So we kind of talked about the receiving game a little bit with Goff, but this run game is
sick.
It's nasty, dude. It's nasty. You had I wish they could have found a way to force feed another 55 yards to Jahmyr Gibbs last year, so they could have had 2,000-yard backs in a league that doesn't have a lot of 1,000-yard backs. Last year Montgomery was just over with 1,015 for 13 touchdowns on 4.6 yards per carry. Gibbs was 945 with 10 touchdowns.
They both missed games.
Yeah, on a 5.1 yards per carry. How do you see this dynamic? All right, do you see it staying the same, or do you see it change? Because I went and looked at it, right? Like, the last 5 games of the regular season, it was Montgomery 68 carries, Gibbs 65. But in the playoffs, it was Montgomery 39 to Gibbs 29. The difference being Gibbs had 31 targets in the receiving game. Montgomery gets 16. I don't see it changing much. No, even though people are going to want Gibbs more because it's fantasy and he's fun and he'll have more yards per carry. I don't see it changing, and I don't think it should either.
No, in the era of fantasy football, I very much understand why there's frustration there. But with Detroit Lions wanting to win games, I think Montgomery's contact balance is awesome. I was kind of really surprised to see how well he did behind that Lions offensive line. I think you go with the hot hand, and I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think you should. Hopefully, you don't have a coaching staff that's so stubborn that's being like, you want to know what? Montgomery's our early down power guy, and then Gibbs can come down and be this explosive, dynamic change of pace receiving back, which I anticipate it staying the same. But also, if any of them, and I would probably lean towards more Montgomery, getting less efficient over time, pull the trigger, don't be stubborn, and do give one running back more of the run if the other one is showing a lack of efficiency.
Which I do think they will. Which I do think they will, but I also don't think they're going to be put in that situation because this run game is... I mean, it's one, we talk about 2 good backs, right? One they traded up for in Gibbs. So I do think Gibbs may get a little, like the ratio may be a little closer, but Montgomery probably leading the way just because Gibbs is going to get so many touches in the air compared to Montgomery. And if you look at, the start of the season, it was a little more heavier slanted towards Montgomery. But this offensive line, right? We talked about in the passing game, but it's just as good in the run game, right? I mean, you have Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, like run blocking tackles in the NFL. It's kind of like Trent Williams, Penei, and like Wirfs.
Yeah.
Right? Like Penei's coming, and so we're talking about like run blocking tackles, right? Well, guess who had the number 1 pass blocking efficiency for tackles last year?
Penei Sewell.
Penei freaking Sewell coming off an all-pro year. And again, he's just a beast, man. Like, I love them so much coming out of Oregon, and I was actually one of the people like, why are they putting him at put him at left tackle? Like, Taylor Decker's a good player, put him at left tackle. But I was wrong about that because they've kept Taylor Decker around, and Decker's not the best left tackle in the NFL, but he's surely a very good one. And then the rest of the group, right? Frank Ragnow, number 6 in pass blocking efficiency for centers, he's really good. And then you had an all-pro and Kevin Zeitler, coming off, you think about how good this group was last year, and you add Kevin Zeitler to it over Jonah Jackson. Like, it's just nasty. It's not fair.
And I think you have a lot of maulers. Like, I would say the Lions' offensive line they're slightly better run blockers than they are pass blockers, but then Kevin Zeitler comes in and he is a better pass blocker than he is run blocker, right?
Yeah. And they do so many different things in the run game too, right? Like they move these guys around. Penik allows you to do things that just basically like Trent Williams, even though he probably could do some of the stuff, they don't do it with him. But like some of the stuff that they can do with Penik, where they get him out in space, is nasty, right? And then guess what? This team is spilling inside, right? Spilling inside. They'll have Penik literally like fake block a dude and then get out on the corner, and it allows them to do so much. That's where I thought Ben Johnson has really showed off the most, is in the run game, right? With the different things that they run. And that showed up early on for Ben Johnson, right? Even year one, you saw like you remember I did the runs of the week segment. The Lions were on
every week.
For film, the Lions were on it every single week, and I was never talking about the running back. I was only talking about the offensive line. So they're gonna be better. They got better at offensive line. They didn't lose anybody besides Josh Reynolds.
They're good, man, and they're fun to watch. That's the thing. Sometimes
Young,
you have a
getting
team
better.
Sometimes you have this team with talent. It's like, there's this one element that's holding them back. There's this one position that's to watch. They have a play caller that's too stubborn to do this or doesn't do this enough. Nah, man, they're fun, and I think they're gonna kick ass. And that's the main thing, Bobby. Where this team did a pretty good job at getting these halftime leads and getting early leads. And I think they had 52 pass plays of 20-plus yards last year, which was the same amount as the Kansas City Chiefs, the New Orleans Saints. So it was like middle of the pack, a little bit above average. So even with the low average depth of target, they still are explosive. And they get off to these leads, and this is where it kind of leads to the defense a little bit. They get off to these leads, and they score a lot of points in the first half. But their defense does a very bad job in helping the offense keep these leads. So I think the offense is going to kick ass, and the offense has kicked ass. But in terms of it showing up as a kick-ass performance on the final box score, in terms of Lions win, opponent loss, the defense has been one of the main reasons why this Lions team hasn't just kicked ass as the years have went on.
In the past defense in general, because the run defense is really good.
Very good.
Let's talk. Last year it was awful, right? One, they had practice squad guys. Khalil Dorsey was starting games down the stretch for them, right? Like the NFC Championship game, they had Kendall Vildor starting at corner for them.
Sounds like a villain.
He's like their number 5 or number 6 corner now. And then here's the thing: is the one guy that they were supposed to rely on, Cam Sutton, was awful. He was pitiful.
Oh yeah,
right? Gave up the most yards allowed in the NFL. Had 1 interception. And a lot of times the guys that give up a lot of yards, they get their hands on the ball, they force incompletions, they have pass breakups. Not Cam Sutton, especially when you play man coverage the way the Lions like to do. Nope. Sutton was 53rd of 83 in forced incompletion rate, 56 in pass breakups. 9th highest average depth of target, right? You're like, oh, well, probably not a high completion percentage rate. Wrong. He was 59th out of 83 in that. He was just awful, and then he was the guy they were supposed to depend on, and the rest of the guys were trash. Chauncey Gardner got hurt early, and they went out and they revamped it, right? They got Carlton Davis, long man coverage corner, right? 8th best forcing completion rate in man at 28% last year. They had Amik Robertson, who's going to go back to nickel where he belongs instead of playing out on the outside. That's where he belongs. He can play man coverage, and then they do something that I love, and other teams don't do, because they're like, we're going to fill our needs. No, they double dipped in the NFL draft. Their first round corner was a man coverage corner. Their second round pick in the NFL draft was a coverage corner in Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. Now, here's my worry: is that Carlton Davis is good. He's not elite. He's not great, but he's good. Same with Amik Robertson. And I worry that Arnold's going to have struggles early on. So while this unit will be better, right? And better might have won them a Super Bowl last year, it still may be middle of the road or even bottom half in the pass defense units, where last year they were awful, right? They were 27th in passing yards, 29th in yards per attempt, and then 25th in EPA per play.
And somebody that I think you're forgetting out of all this is Brian Branch.
Yeah, the safeties we'll talk about. I kind of wanted to talk about the corners, because that's where they were That's where they were god awful last year.
I mean, Bobby, we've had this debate, and I'm gonna look it up right now. I'm pretty sure Brian Branch. I mean, I guess here's the thing.
Last year he played mostly nickel corner, but they're gonna have Robertson play. Like he's playing more safety this year.
Okay. I'm interested to see that because I really liked the role that Brian Branch played last year. You want to know what? Like, nickel corner may not be this premium position that you draft the guy in the first round for or second round for. Did Brian Branch unfortunately fall out of the first round even though he was
he went in the second round. It was nuts. He went 50th, I think.
46 pick. I thought he was very clearly a first round talent, and he showed it last year. Brian Branch makes plays on the football. He makes plays in the backfield, and he just makes plays. That was a really, really good pickup for them last year. And with the addition and the added members of a secondary who have more clear defined roles, interested to see what role Brian Branch does play this year. I think he should continue to play everything, whether it is safety, whether it is nickel corner, like playing close to the line of scrimmage, get in the backfield, tackles for loss. Brian Branch, he's very good. I love him so much. He was one of my favorite players out of last year's draft. My favorite team should have drafted him. Anyway.
Yeah, he's a first-round player. It's the stupid shit every single year, because I want to talk about Branch for a second, too, where every year we do this. Every year we have this safety who's like, hey, his film's, like, really sick, right? But he ran a 4.58 in the 40 every year. And then guess what? That safety ends up balling, right? I did it last year because it was like Cam Kinchins and like one other safety I really liked. And it was like, oh, he doesn't have the athleticism. It's like safety is not a pure run athletic position. It is your mind. In fact, I'm going to look it up right now.
But even with Brian Branch, like you say, he mostly played nickel corner, so I don't even view him as a safety right now. I view him more as a corner-ish, but he could be a corner too, which is also what makes him great.
Yeah.
You muted yourself.
I said I looked this up because I did have the question of where they're going to play Brian Branch. And Al Karsten, who covers the Lions, he was down there when we were up there last year. Outside cornerback, it's Carlton Davis, Taron Arnold, and it's Rakestraw. Nickel, it's Amik Robertson 1, Brian Branch 2, and then safety, it's Branch, Kirby Joseph, Brandon Joseph.
Okay.
And I don't think Branch practiced in the Lions practices we saw this offseason. So that's why we don't have the best idea of it. But yeah, he's do it all though, right? So if you need him to play nickel, he'll play nickel and he'll do it well. He had 3 interceptions last year, 7 tackles for a loss. He was 3rd in DB run stop, 2nd in DB run stop rate. I mean, he's a do-it-all player. He's extremely intelligent. That's why you can move him around so much. And he's going to be a chess piece for them, right? Like, I'm actually hoping he's not pushed into the nickel role. And there's times where they didn't put him on the field as much last year. Because I do want them moving him all over the field because he is capable of doing it.
Yeah, I think he can handle it.
Like, to me, he's... shit, am I going to say it? He is like a shorter... They should use him like a shorter Kyle Hamilton. Because he's a do-it-all type of player, the same way that Kyle Hamilton is.
All right.
He was another guy on the, is he that fast? 40 time. And then you have Kirby Joseph, who's a solid safety, too, next to him. So they really improved it. The part of this defense that I worry about, though, is the pass rush.
I want to talk about that because I have some numbers on that. So they were number 4 in pressure rate last year. They did not get home as much as they should have. And maybe you'll talk about that. But they were number 4 in pressure rate. Okay, great. So they pressure the quarterback a lot. But they were the worst team in the NFL. Because when you pressure the quarterback, you can force an incompletion. The play isn't ending when you pressure the quarterback because there's still there's a throw that goes off, pass is incomplete or incomplete, right? So they were the worst team in the NFL. Their secondary was when they got pressure on the quarterback. They were number 32 in yards per attempt, number 31 in EPA per play, number 23 in completion rate, number 32 in 20-plus yard gain rate per attempt, and number 31 in 10-plus yard gain rate per attempt. So it was bad. It was bad when they pressured the quarterback. And then also, this is even crazier. Their blitzes were terrible. They were terrible. I think the Lions need to become more of a team that rushes 4 and goes after the quarterback and blitzes less. Because their four-man rush last year, number 9 in EPA per attempt. When they brought 5-plus man rush, so when they blitzed the quarterback, they were last in the NFL in EPA per attempt, and they were last in the NFL in yards per attempt. They were last. Now, they were number 2 in pressure rate when they brought the blitz, but they also were number 5 in pressure rate in a 4-man rush. And they basically had a top 10 secondary performance when they only rushed 4. That is a huge, huge discrepancy. And I think Aaron Glenn needs to kind of take the foot off the accelerator a little bit, give your secondary some help, give them some time, because they have, it's crazy to say, like, do they have a 4-man pass rush that can get home consistently? But they have a really damn good one that does get home a lot in Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I don't know if they will do that because they kind of just live by what they do, die by what they do. But I do agree that you can dial it back a little bit. But like you said, Aiden Hutchinson's their guy, right? He had 101 total sacks, hits, and pressures. Their next best was Aleem McNeil at 34. I got very close to just seeing who had the second most on every single team and seeing where they were. But I started with Arizona, and they actually did have less. And I was like, I'm not going through every single teams. So Hutchinson's the dude, right? And people like to shit on Hutchinson because they don't, he doesn't play, the teach tape type of like, oh, play your gap, play your responsible, because there's times where he's out of position. But he wins, right? It's kind of the TJ Watt, JJ Watt type of rule where it's like, all right, if you do that, you better win. And Aiden Hutchinson freaking does do that.
And
they need him to do it. They need. Go ahead.
No, he had 5 sacks because I actually was on the power ranking show with Dalton Philly to end the season. And I said, you want to know what? This Lions pass rush needs to get home more. Like, they're really good in this pressure rate, but they actually need to get sacks in the postseason. So lo and behold, the last 2 games of the regular season, 5 sacks for Aiden Hutchinson, 3 in one game, 2 in another game. And then I'm pretty sure he had two games where he had at least a sack in the postseason. So he was really good in the postseason too.
Yeah, he's a baller, right? And anyone that tries to deny that or, get a little snarky with it drives me nuts. It's like, okay, that's sick. I bet the guy that you like that freaking doesn't do shit, but he's strong and he's long. Like, give me a fucking break. And like you said, he did ball in the postseason. He had 2 sacks versus the Rams, a sack versus the Bucks. So he's a beast, but it's just they don't have much pass rush. Like DJ Reader, they added DJ Reader, one of the more underrated signings of the offseason, I believe.
Not really a pass
rusher. He's a beast, right? He's a good he's gonna win as a pass rusher, but he's not gonna produce anything. I mean, he has 9.5 sacks in 8 years, but he is like a top 5 nose tackle in football right now, and I do think that helps to add him next to Aleem McNeil. It's just they've got to generate pass rush from somewhere else. Like, I know the James Houston guy, he doesn't get playing time. He does well in preseason. He's done well when he's got a shot in the regular season. I wonder if they start to give him a little more of a rotational role for them because they do need it.
You want to know what's crazy, Bobby? We're talking about can the Lions possibly take the foot off the gas in terms of their blitz rate? Alex Anzalone, their linebacker.
Talk about their linebackers.
Had and this is according to PFF, which I like the way the PFF tracks QB hits, is they track it separately from sacks. QB hits stand on their own, sacks are on their own. I think he had over 10 QB hits last year on the quarterback just by himself as an interior linebacker, which I'm going to confirm this right now.
Yeah, and they've got to, I think Jack Campbell's going to take a step up too. You have Barnes, who, again, has been really good for a long time.
Yeah, he had 10. As an interior linebacker, having 10 QB hits on 83 pass rush opportunities, by the way. That's crazy.
Where does he rank among, interior linebackers for, just total sacks, hits, and pressures?
I can check that. Keep talking.
Well, I'm looking to check something, so talk. I'm trying to look at, because I'm looking for James Houston because he had a good 2022 whenever he got a chance. So I want to see his win rate to go with that. So James Houston, if you guys don't know who I'm talking about, his name is James Houston. He had a 19% win rate his rookie year and very little amount of snaps. But he had 8 sacks, 4 hits, and 5 pressures, Justin. On 92 pass rush snaps. Give this guy more of a third down role. Justin, last year, you know how many snaps he played on defense for them last year?
How many snaps?
140.
Hello.
140.
Get out there.
Was he injured beginning of the year? Am I ignorant, Lions fans?
And I can answer your question on Alex Anzalone.
Answer it while I look it up.
He led.
Oh my god, he was injured. No wonder I'm such a freaking idiot, Lions fan. Butcher me.
led the league in QB hits among interior linebackers at 10. But I mean, he's also you wanted win rate?
Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at 2023. He didn't.
Oh my god, we got to get it together. Sloppy back end of this of this TPP.
Yeah, I know. He played.
You're
He
talking
played
about
40
James
snaps.
Houston.
James Houston played 40 snaps last year.
Oh,
That's not enough.
not enough.
Even
No.
if he was injured, and that's why. Play the man.
Is he your X factor?
No, he's not. I wasn't even planning to talk about him.
Okay. Well, where do you want to go to next?
All right,
I have
he
a
did
stat.
get injured. I'm an idiot. I'm a freaking idiot, Lions fans. You guys should beat the shit out of me. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go to next? Additions, losses.
Additions, losses, but I even want to give this DJ Reader stat too, because we didn't really talk about their run defense. It's really, really good. And I think they're going to continue to be really, really good. They have good linebackers, who I really like as well. DJ Reader. Here's a crazy stat on DJ
And
Reader.
great run defending DBs too, by the way.
And they, again, Brian Branch. DJ Reader, when he was on the field with the Bengals, they were number 1 in yards per carry, 3.6, and number 1 in EPA per rush at minus 0.17. And this is over the last 2 years. When DJ Reader was off the field, the Bengals were number 32 in yards per carry and number 31 in EPA per rush. And yeah, a top 5 run defense just added that guy.
Yeah, and so DJ Reader's been one of the more underrated players because he doesn't get any pass rush production, right? But there's like a Bengals film guy that I follow, and he's been banging this drum, and he shows me the film and stuff. I'm like, oh man, Bengals son, if you want to go check him out. And he's a freaking beast, right? Like for nose tackles, he might be right after Dexter Lawrence in the NFL right now.
Ooh.
Now there's a big gap between those two, but like that's where he is. Additions and losses. They added Kevin Zeitler, DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, Carlton Davis, and Meek Robertson. They lost Josh Reynolds, Jonah Jackson, Benito Jones, Cam Sutton, Jerry Jacobs, Tracy Walker, and Chauncey Gardner, technically, even though he got injured. And then their draft class, better, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they got better. Draft class, Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, Giovanni Manu. Remember that guy? The Canadian dude?
Yep.
Simon Vaki, who's playing running back from them. Mekhi Wingo, the defensive tackle out of LSU. And Christian Mahogany, the guard out of Boston College. It'd be interesting to see if Wingo gets some snaps on third down. He's got a little bit of pass rush production. But I like double dipping at corner. Even if those guys don't produce, year one, corner's a tough position, but I like double dipping on there. And another thing I'd like to spare this draft class is if we were covering the Lions, Justin, I would have felt really good because I know all 6 of these guys. Manu in the 4th round is kind of shocking.
And if there's one team that can clean up Christian Mahogany, if there's one team that can kind of clean up what he needs to get better at, it's the Lions.
Yeah. Now he's injured again, so I don't see Mahogany getting good. I'd be shocked. But yeah, Mahogany's he's like a highlight merchant for offensive line. And I love him, right? New Jersey, Sopranos, all that stuff. I'd like to hang out with him. I just don't think he's got it long term. I kind of love the Lions draft class over the last few years. Who is your X factor?
It's Brian Branch. Like, you're a good player in this secondary that still has some question marks with a lot of new names and faces, but go and be one of this defense's best players and solidify yourself as a star in the NFL.
Mine is Jamison Williams, and it's not the way that Lions fans probably look at him, but like if he can just be the guy, just be better than what you've been. Give me 45 yards per game. Be a wide receiver 2 in the NFL, but you're the you're the outside, wide receiver 1 on this team. It's obviously not wide receiver 1 in Monroe, but like be what most a average wide receiver 2 in the NFL. And I think that helps this team a lot. Over under 10.5 wins. So something I've learned through this exercise, Justin, is that the top teams, their over-unders are very low. So I'm going over. I'm going over on every team in our top 8 in the power rankings.
I'm going over as well.
All right, that is the Detroit Lions, and this is Football Today.